Alright, hello. Quick spontaneous video. I think some of you might have noticed that Blizzard have announced a sort of mini rework for mages on the 10.15 PTR. So I thought I'd just make a quick video going over it and giving my thoughts. The biggest thing, I think, for everyone is that Rune of Power has been removed. They go into some justification here, like Rune of Power is almost mandatory to maximize your damage, and it is. A lot of people don't like the gameplay. They've tried to make the gameplay easier in Shadowlands. They reworked Rune of Power to remove the charges and have it be cast with your major cooldown, but that made Rune of Power way better. And then, there's just no options since then. Encounter Flow hasn't been competitive since they made that rework. And I think they would like to not go back to making Rune of Power harder to use, considering that people seem to find it hard enough. Personally, I think whenever you start playing Mage and you start practicing and getting serious about it, like Rune of Power is an interesting thing to play around. But after a while, like, you just get over it, and it's just annoying. I've been playing Mage for like 7 years now, and I used to really like Rune, but now it's just like, yeah, whatever, I don't care, I'm over it. Really like this change, especially for specs like Frost and Fire, which don't really feel like they make good use of Rune. At least the castable Rune. It obviously synergizes with your cooldowns, but you cast Rune of Power with Sun King's Blessing or whatever, but it doesn't really feel like you're making the same use of it as Arcane would. So very, very good change. They go into some changes about the tree layout. I will skip this and come back to it in a second. So I'm going to go over Fire and Frost because they don't actually have them on PTR yet, so I can't show you them, and then I'll show you the ones that they actually do have. So Fire suffers from one build fits all. Yeah, sure. Ignite dealing large portions of damage in single target and AoE makes it difficult to separately tune single target and AoE. That is true, but it's their own fault. In Shadowlands, how Ignite worked was you spread it and it spread to 8 targets, and then if you tried to spread it again, it would just spread to the same 8 targets. They could put that functionality back in. They could make it capped at like 4 or 5 targets, and then Fire would have that cleave niche. But they've just not done that. And on top of that, Flame Strike and Living Bomb are criminally undertuned. It is very possible to have a world where Ignite and Flame Strike based AoE coexist. They have just not bothered to actually design or tune that properly. It's happened before and it can happen again. Hopefully they don't bin Ignite. I think a lot of people find the Ignite gameplay more fun because it's the hot streak generation from Pyroblast makes it a bit more interactive than Flame Strike AoE. So hopefully they don't completely butcher it. I think if they just cap Ignite and make it how it worked in Shadowlands, where it always spreads to the same targets, like, I think it fills that cleave niche fine. And then you can have Flame Strike for your really, really big AoE. Moving forward to Frost, looking into lesser pick talents. Sure, talents Ray of Frost, Glacial Spike. Taking a look at minimal Ice Lance builds. I think one of the issues they have with Ice Lance every time it's good is people look at damage breakdowns, like look at this end of Shadowlands beta where Ice Lance was really good, and they see like, oh, like 60% of Frost Mage damage coming from Ice Lance. Ice Lance must do too much damage, but if Ice Lance is 50% of your casts, is it really doing too much damage? And they look at damage meters like that, and then they just nerf Ice Lance damage, and then suddenly it's not worth casting, and it goes from doing 50% of your damage to 0% of your damage because a Frostbolt just does more damage. It's very hard for spenders to do too much damage because you can't use them all the time. So if your spender does too much damage, it's fine. You still cast Frostbolt because it gives you Ice Lance. But if it doesn't do enough damage, then you get into the really degenerate rotations. So TLDR, Ice Lance can't do too much damage. But the whole tree right now, I think, is a complete mess. I think they need to go back to the drawing board. But they do say that they want to address minimal Ice Lance. They do say that the amount of talents required to make Icy Veins feel like a good cooldown is pretty high. I think, yeah, the uptime spec of Frost is a problem. I think Icy Propulsion is a problem. And the lack of AoE kit is a problem. And the lack of real AoE kit is not something that gets mentioned here. On AoE, you just kind of spam Blizzard and Frozen Orb, and if those spells are tuned highly enough, great. And if they're not, you just don't do any damage. So yeah, it's good that they're making changes to Frost, but I think they've missed the mark on some things. Okay, they changed so the next stuff I can actually show you on the PTR. I have the PTR open in the background, and I'll jump onto it in a second. They changed the structure of the class tree. They've made a few adjustments. The DPS traits So Shifting Power is now in the middle somewhere, and you're basically always going to play it as every spec. And then your Meteor is gone, Temporal Anomaly and Time Warp is the center capstone, which is your choice. Well, it's not a capstone, it's kind of like in the middle. I'll show you in a second. And then the other two capstones are now utility defensive traits. So one of them is called Ice Cold. It modifies your ice block, so you're able to cast while it's active. And it's a DR instead of an immunity. And then the other two is a choice node for Mass Invis and Mass Barrier. Arcane. They want to give Arcane more AoE damage without having to rely on Touch and Radiant Spark. So they've done two things. They've added a talent that makes your clear casting cause Arcane Explosion to be cast a second time for less damage. And they've reworked Orb Barrage to be exactly the same as the Legion Legendary, which is whenever you cast Barrage, you have a chance per Arcane charge spent to shoot an Arcane Orb. I think Blizzard were told to do this about 5 minutes after the Dragonflight beta went up. Not sure what took so long because the Arcane Missiles talent was garbage, but whatever. Ultimately good changes, but you know, I don't want to sound too negative. Like, they're good changes, but at the same time, like, me and other content creators and other theory crafters have been giving very concrete feedback on these things for maybe a year now. I can't remember when Dragonflight beta went up, but yeah, you wonder what takes them so long. So if I go in game, the Fire and Frost trees, no actual updates have been made on PTR yet, so I'll just be showing this. Shifting Power is now here in the middle. You obviously can see Rune of Power is gone, and Incanter's Flow is now over here. Down at the bottom here, you've got your Temporal Warp Time Anomaly choice node, and then you have your new choice node on the left, and your new choice node on the right, and the non-choice node on the left. Size block now reduces all damage you take by 70% for 6 seconds, but no longer grants immunity. Prevents movement or casting spells, and it's off the GCD. Now this choice node is Mass Invis and Mass Barrier. So Mass Barrier is a separate spell. It's not a thing that applies whenever you cast your barrier. It casts Barrier on yourself and 3 nearby allies on a 2-minute cooldown. Whenever I read this, I thought it was going to be a lot better. It's all right. I think in Raid, these other two talents aren't particularly good. So I think that you'll end up playing this a lot of the time anyway, but I don't know. I wish it was better. I wish it either hit more people or had a lower cooldown or something. But, you know, it might be quite good in Mythic Plus. The interesting thing about Mass Invis, you can Mass Invis in combat, but it does not affect your allies in combat. I pull this guy. I can Mass Invis, but it doesn't do anything when you're in combat. I believe it's supposed to affect yourself, but right now it doesn't. But yeah, it says on the tooltip that it does not affect allies in combat. So if it works like the PvP talent, it'll affect you in combat, but not your friends. So you can still use it for some weird skips, but it only lasts 10 seconds, which is not a long amount of time. So there might be some Mythic Plus skips, but it's not as good as Shroud. But, you know, you'll take it. Mass Barrier, separate button. I guess I'll show this Ice Block talent. Oh, never mind, I can't do that while Mass Invis is on cooldown. Good luck, go find someone else's video for that. In the Arcane tree, some things have moved around. This is my reconstruction of the closest thing to the current raid build. A lot of things are in the same place. This is the new talent, so clear casting makes your next Arcane missiles go faster, or makes your Arcane Explosion echo for 40% more damage, which is good. Other than that, I don't think there are significant changes to the Arcane tree. One thing is that Siphon Storm makes Evocation Channel faster now. But I think that is kind of it for changes. Where is it? Where are you? Yeah, so Evocation Channel's pretty quick now with Siphon Storm, which is kind of nice. It was a pretty long cast before. But yeah, that is Mage changes. I'm happy to see Mage changes. They've been getting not a lot of changes for a while now. So yeah, this is good. Like it, but I think there still needs to be a bit more, and I am hoping for a bit more. But, you know, we'll see whenever the Fire and Frost trees actually go up. But yeah, this was very improv, so might have been a bit rambly, but thank you all for watching, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye-bye.